Okay then, I'm back. This is Stupidity in the Gamosphere. So this just came out today, the 21st. I'm going to read the article and then I'll give you my take after the cut. Microsoft's final sales pitch for the Xbox One X falls flat. This is from Eurogamer.net. Um, and this is done by Martin Robinson. I don't know why I said Ronson. As the allocated 90 minutes clocked up and we all began to think about the few short hours left until we drag ourselves up for the Monday commute, it was hard to make head or tail of what Microsoft's Gamescom show had set out to achieve. In an hour and a half of reheated E3 trailers and recaps, there was perhaps one announcement of a genuine exclusive for the Xbox: a vertical console stand for the day one edition of the Xbox One X, as unpackaged by Major Nelson in an abandoned office on the other side of the world. um, Whether this is a conference or not was neither here nor there, for Microsoft had requested the attention of an audience hungry for anything after a lackluster E3 and staring down the barrel of an unconvincing Q4 for Xbox. This was an opportunity to convince the world that the Xbox One X, or from henceforth, whenever they say that, I'm going to call that the triple Xbox, was going to be a worthwhile bet this year, perhaps the last before the console's launch. But when the pre-orders went live at the close of the show, it was difficult not to feel the sales pitch had fallen a little flat. The remasters announced to coincide with the triple Xbox were a curious bunch. There was Recore, the lovable but slightly skeweth um, Double A adventure from last year, whose definitive edition's big boast was that the campaign that was clearly rushed out for last September might finally be finished, with one of the stars of the box art who was curiously absent in the original restored. There were true 4K editions of Disneyland Adventures, Rush, a Disney Pixar adventure, and Zoo Tycoon. All perfect for the discerning 7-year-old in your household who throws a hissy fit at the mere mention of checkerboarding. It all brought up the same question that kept recurring again and again. Who is this thing for, and what's Microsoft setting out to achieve with the triple Xbox? Its mantra, repeated ad infinitum in official material, is that this is the world's most powerful console. And of that, there's little doubt. It's the world's most handsome, too. A beautifully designed and probably minuscule slab of technology that'd sit proudly under any television set. But while Microsoft's engineers have hit it out of the park, there's the nagging feeling that elsewhere in Redmond things aren't running quite so smoothly. You can sense that in the same mistakes being made again. You can sense that in the same mistakes being made again. Microsoft stepped up its commitment to Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, backing a proven winner, and this year's true phenomenon is what amounts to quite a coup for the Xbox brand. But the messaging was all over the place. That this, it seems, is an exclusive in the very loose definition of the word, with all sorts of obfuscation, lies, being peddled out when it comes to future versions on other platforms. Maybe if Phil Spencer hadn't skipped this week's show, he might have advised that, mindful of a Gamescom from the not too distant past and the muddled reveal of another Xbox exclusive, you can't pull the wool over people's eyes for too long. There were better signs elsewhere, and the 100+ games that will be receiving updates to make the most of the triple Xbox hardware makes for impressive reading. The promise of an improved definitive console version of The Witcher 3 is almost enough to justify the upgrade. And elsewhere, there's an appealing list of games that will benefit from a facelift. But at this point in the console's life cycle, Microsoft needs more than prettier versions of multi-platform games if it's to make serious inroads into Sony's considerable lead of this generation. It needs new and exciting games, and just one reason to make the Xbox One X essential, an Uncharted or a Breath of the Wild to make the console's case for it. Forza 7, as fine as it looks, doesn't quite cut it, alongside Gears of War and Halo. It feels like yesterday's news and not the shot in the arm that's needed right now. You could argue that the PlayStation 4 didn't have its own big showcase game, but given Sony's momentum and success so far this generation, it didn't really need one. Maybe the small victories will be enough. There are a few there are a fair few that Microsoft can claim. Cuphead looks astounding as ever, and the early months of 2018 look relatively packed with Ori, a re-release, Crackdown, maybe good, Sea of Thieves from current Microsoft era rare, and State of Decay. Eh, there's something appetizing about Xbox being the underdog once more, and with Sony resurrecting its villain role from the PS3 days with such moves as its blocking of cross-platform play, it's hard not to root for Microsoft as it stages its own revival. Okay, given how the triple Xbox has already sold out its initial allocation on Amazon UK, maybe they'll all prove to be enough. Will it be enough to put Microsoft back on top of that? I'm not so sure, but perhaps that's not the point, and maybe it never was. For all the bluster of the triple Xbox and its proud claim to be the world's most powerful console, it seems right now its intentions are surprisingly modest. A boon to for the fans with a little exclusive vertical stand thrown into poop. Given the hits the brand has taken over the last few years, staying upright might be all that can be asked for right now. Okay. I'll give you my take after I'll give you my take after the. All right, so this is what's really going on here, in my opinion. Now, basically, the triple Xbox is Microsoft's. Um, it's their swan song for the Xbox. Okay, it's their Dreamcast. It's like, look, we gave you the most powerful thing we could. You know, let's look. There's no excuses for people not getting this. It's powerful. It's basically them overcorrecting for the triple Xbox. I mean, for the original Xbox One. So basically, they're in a situation where they're damned. I mean, there's not much they can really do at this point. In terms of the software availability, yeah, it's a mess. But I mean, what do you expect? Here's the thing. Here's what people need to understand about the Xbox. Okay, when Steve Ballmer pitched the Xbox. Okay, he believed in it. Okay, basically the Xbox was supposed to be a device that would get people who weren't really into that weren't into PCs. It was a backdoor PC into people's living rooms. The problem is that at the end of the day, it didn't really pan out that way. Okay, and like people weren't making the conversion. Okay, so Microsoft went with it and said, well, it's a console, and we make a console now. But the problem is that the Xbox really didn't excel at that. Okay, it never really excelled at being a console, really. And I know some people are going to get mad when I say that, but hear me out. Don't just get pissed at me because you don't like what I'm saying. The Xbox was never going to be that great of a console. Okay, it was never going to be this awesome thing. It was never going to be able to attract people who liked those types of games. It was never going to happen, and they didn't understand that. And that's the hilarious thing. It was never going to be that backdoor because, generally speaking, people who like consoles because of quote unquote the simplicity of a console. And the problem with the current consoles is that in the 7th gen, Sony and Microsoft basically started going more towards making what is essentially a shitty little gaming PC. Because they started focusing too much on third-party developers and not themselves. So, it continued into the 8th gen, which is what we're in now. Yes, we're still in the 8th gen. Even though Nintendo basically took the Wii U and slimmed it down, got rid of combined everything into a tablet controller, and switch the name, it's still basically the games that are running on the Switch are not games that would have been impossible on the on the Wii U. There isn't a single game on the Switch that couldn't have been done on the Wii U as exists now. And don't believe, oh, we couldn't have done Mario Kart 8 on the, we couldn't have done this on Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. Bullshit. Okay, if you believe that, then you'll believe that Santa Claus is real. Okay, and if you believe Santa Claus is real, then I feel sorry for you. But that's neither here nor there. Basically, essentially, this shit didn't work out the way they wanted it, and now they're suffering for it. And I mean, I don't really feel sorry for them because, I mean, you know, that's what happens when you focus on bullshit repeatedly, year over year over year, repeatedly over and over again, for no goddamn reason. And I mean, on top of all of that, Xbox didn't really make money for its entire. It has not turned a profit its entire existence as a console. Period. 17 years has not made money. So that's the cardinal sin in business, to have a product. I mean, most products would be discontinued after 2 or 3 years of not making money, but this shit has had 17 years of not making any money, and the XXXbox probably ain't gonna make any money either. The reason why, and this is gonna lead to the games lineup, is because the real money in console making, if you are a console maker, is first-party games. That's where the money is. And I know people always like to say the lazy-ass excuse, well, what about licensing? Okay. Think of it like this, all right? Okay, as someone who owns a business, which I do, I own a business, okay? The money that I make off of my machines is negligible. The vast majority of the money that I make is from the bar. That's where I make the vast majority of my money. That's where the biggest percentage of the profit of the revenue generated comes from. Really, the amount of money I make from people just playing the machines is like just, I mean, it doesn't even cover just the basic bills to keep the lights on and the, you know, normal, you know, vagaries of life. Okay? And I know people are going to get mad at me and they're going to say, well, I don't like what you're saying. I don't like that idea. I understand that. I'm just telling you what's going on. Okay? So I'm guessing that what they're getting with licensing, like, think of it like this, okay? Really, with the little sweetheart deals Microsoft and Sony do with third parties, they may be getting between $5 and $10 per game. The third parties are getting between $25 and $35 if the game is physical. If it's digital, they get like aside from Microsoft and Sony's $5 to $10 cut, they aren't getting shit. Do you understand? Like, if a game sells 10 million on a Microsoft or Sony console, they're only getting like, if you factor in the $5 to $10, they're only getting like $100,000. That ain't shit. Microsoft and Sony wipe their asses with $100,000. Okay, that's like the income of one of these people, of one of the low-level people that work at Sony and Microsoft. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when people say, well, the licensing fees, and here's the thing, here's the dirty little secret. In order to get a lot of these third-party games on Microsoft systems, on Microsoft and Sony systems, they waive their licensing fees. They make sweetheart deals. You know, well, hey, you know, I'm going to help you guys out. You don't have to pay us for Um, you don't have to pay us, for this shit. They literally do stuff like that. Okay, they literally do make these like weird sweetheart deals for shit like that, and they do that. They literally do shit like that. And so, I'm not saying they did it right now. I'm not saying they've done it recently, but a lot of these deals, that's what Microsoft is doing. Or they do, well, they do deals where it's like, well, we'll lower our license fee, or we'll bounce it for this game or for that game, or whatever. So, I mean, like, why do you think Sony and Microsoft have cut back on their first party games? Because their first party games aren't really making money, and their third party games, they're not really making money off of that shit either. Okay? And I know people will say, well, Sony recently turned a profit for their games division. Yeah, that was because of the PS3. Okay? That wasn't because, like, really, let me put it this way. If the Xbox division was that fucking profitable, do you honestly think Sony and Microsoft, do you honestly think Sony would have started charging for their online, which is still really shitty? I mean, you're paying for it, and it's still really, really fucking shitty. So, I mean, you know, take that any way you want. But so that leads to my second point, to my final point, which is what I said earlier. The Xbox this is the end. Okay, this is their final. Hey guys, we did everything we could. Like, this is their, so then they can say, hey, we did the best we could. We gave it everything we could. They can't say we didn't support the system, and we didn't do what we needed to do. And you might ask, well, why are they doing this? Why would they do that? Because Microsoft wants to go with PC, because supporting a console is just not working for them. Okay, it's just not doing shit for them. Okay, supporting a console hasn't really been helping them. It's not really doing anything for them, so they just it's costing too goddamn much. All right, and at this point, they're just like, whatever. And I can't say I really feel sorry for them, but it is what it is. I mean, personally, I would rather have more first party games, but their first party games don't sell well. Their exclusives aren't really selling well, so they aren't making enough money off of any of these things. So Microsoft is this is their final thing. And the saddest thing about all of this is that the reason that they could pay and get the Xbox One, the triple Xbox made, is because it's why they canceled all this stuff, because the new CEO basically cut their purse strings. It was like, we're not spending more money on something that's not basically turned a profit in 17 goddamn years. So what he's doing is that they're basically, Phil Spencer is there to basically make the transition to whatever. I mean, the Xbox is not going to die in a conventional sense, but they will get out of making home consoles. Don't be surprised if the next Xbox is just going to be a micro PC that's branded, which I mean, that's what I think they're going to do. That's what I really think they're going to do. And I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I wish things weren't the way they are, but eh. So with that being said, I guess we move on to the second part of this video, where we're going to talk about where do we go from here for the Xbox, for the triple Xbox brand. So I guess it's time to talk about where do they go from here. The answer is, I don't fucking know. Legitimately, there's really nothing that can really be done for the Xbox brand. You know, I would say, well, maybe Phil could make it profitable via, you know, um, the power of, you know, their first party games, but they've canceled all their first party games, so I don't see the point. You know, like most of the games they're using with the thing are multi-plats, and I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. If you have a PC, you can, like, if you have a moderately powerful PC, like I'm talking like mid range right now, you can that you can get for probably $500, $600. You have access to all of the Xbox One exclusive, sorry, air quotes exclusives. So essentially, what I'm saying is they're just wasting people's fucking time. So, where can Microsoft go from here? I don't fucking know, but it's basically, if you haven't got an Xbox yet, I would like, and you absolutely have to have quote unquote the most powerful console ever, until the next one comes out from Sony or whoever. Um, get it now, but don't think that shit's gonna really be like all that badass. So that being said, I have some announcements, and then we can wrap this shit up. All right, so yeah, that was the video. Another stupidity in the gamosphere. And so now it's time to get to announcements and upcoming things. I have another 3 videos coming out this week. I also will be doing another sci-fi power hour-ish, but this one is going to be focusing on Godzilla, and that's going to be Saturday at 7. I mean, you know, it's power hour-ish, but the last one on Star Trek went well over an hour, so it was 2.5. So, you know, it depends on like how good the conversation is on the panel. With that being said, we will be talking about Gojira, or Godzilla. So with that being said, I also have a casting call to make. Anyone who's interested in, who is a Godzilla fan and has a mic and a decent internet connection, you can join the BS Busters podcast, and we can talk about this game, which I would be perfectly happy with, because why not? Why not talk about Godzilla? So the franchise, the movie character, whatever. And I think that would be a fun and interesting thing to do. And so, yeah, I think that would be fun. And if you're interested in being part of the Sci-Fi Power Hour movie, if you will, Sci-Fi Power Hour episode about Godzilla, hit me up in the comment section. It's this Saturday, 7 Eastern Standard Time to around 8, but if you have to leave early, you have to leave early. Hopefully Triple M will be there as well, but I want someone who's got some type of, who's also a Godzilla fan and knowledgeable about it, to be on there. So if that describes you, I'm inviting you to come on board. With that also being said, there's also going to be a BS Busters episode this Sunday at 7. Also at 7, from 7 to 8:30, and it's gonna, initially we were gonna make it about, telling certain developers and publishers to kiss our ass, but I think we've been getting a little too negative with BS Busters, so instead it's going to be us saying thank you to various third-party developers and publishers that we enjoy. We're like, this guy is pretty badass. I like this guy. So we're gonna say thank you to those people and be cool about it, you know. So yeah, it's gonna be a thankful cast, if you will. We'll be saying thank you to these people, which is going to be interesting because generally people don't like to say thank you to third-party developers these days. But there are some that are still holding the fort down. So it's going to be a positive VS Busters, which we don't do enough of those. So this one's going to be special, and hopefully people will enjoy it. So with that being said, those are the announcements. Peace, enjoy, have fun, and you know, respond if you're interested in being part of a podcast. The Sci-Fi Power Hour ish. Good night.